about the future. So when you think of the future, there's a couple things that I want to sort of get at here. So we have some really, really exciting ideas that are in the hopper. And these are things that I want to leave you with, because as I step back, my team, you folks, people from academia are stepping in to do this. Because the message I want to come across tonight is we have built this huge community of just innovation and just really great ideas. Things like Project Falcon. Falcon is this idea, which I always explain really poorly, of, Dan wandered off, so he can't explain it. Where I'm just making fun. So, you come back. Oh, okay. You gotta just do a little write-in? Okay.
I just want to...
Yeah, no problem. All right, I'll talk to you later. So Falcon is, the idea behind this platform is how do you bring together all of the open data? So people, I said I am very happy with Chicago's open data platform. I am. But I wonder, what is open data 2.0? How do we take it from just being lots of spreadsheets on the web available via API and provide broader context? How do we, wow, this is the part where it gets boring. It's like steady exodus. Okay, good chat. So the idea behind Falcon is unifying open data, where we can have Chicago's portal, we can have New York's portal, we can have all of these different portals and bring them together in one, with, again, the focus being on place. So, all right, I mentioned a series of different cities, but take an easier example. There is a state open data portal, there's a city open data portal, and there's a county open data portal. They're all separate. Now, if I'm dealing with spatial data, and I want to know the story of right here, and oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the federal data portal. I want to be able to bring it all together. So Falcon is a prototype for how do we bring together all of these open data portals so that you know the complete story of space. And that's something that will be pushing ahead, and Chicago's looking to lead the way in that. Unicorn is this interesting project. We're looking at Twitter classification. So many of you have heard me talk before about how I don't think government does a great job to listening to non-conventional sources of data. If you want to tell government something, you call 311, okay, which is good. You call your alderman, maybe you send the mayor's office a letter. But at the same time, what about when Glagita tweets out there is a problem on CTA 123, and there's a broken light, there's a delay, there's a foul smell, things like that. We should be hearing you. If you're complaining, we should be hearing you and fixing it. And so the idea behind Unicorn, and it's based on sort of a nerd herd prototype, which Joe, Corey, Q, and Brian and I worked on, is how could you listen to something like #CTA and decide what it's about and then act upon it? Because we want to be better listeners, and we want people to have more than the traditional way of letting us know what to do. That's another project that's working on. But something that's really exciting that came out today is our CLA. So we are really, really excited to have the Chicago GitHub account. So and actually that proved to be harder to get than I thought. Someone had squatted on Chicago. So is Scott Robin lurking in here somewhere? Okay. Scott, shout out, Scott. So we should mention Scott. So Scott has helped me with a gazillion things over the past 2 years. Like, if you don't know Scott Robin, he has just done so much for this community, ranging from using our open data to, I don't know how he freed up the Chicago account, but he did. And so we now have GitHub Chicago. And today we finally got our CLA out the door. And this is great. We are leading the way in sort of the city use of GitHub. We want to get people engaged. And this is another point where we really want to see this community embrace it. Ryan, Tom, they're both very actively involved in it. If you have ideas, they're going to be your points of contact. So that's actually as of, I think, this afternoon.
Yeah, I'm posting the gifts to the Meetup comments account right now, so you can take a look.
Oh, there you go. No criticism. Well, any criticism you can do after I leave tomorrow. So to sort of close this out, we are building a city of data. As I mentioned, we have all of the different pieces. Over the past 2 years, we have done all of the things which people said we couldn't. Like, remember back to when the administration started. People said there couldn't be change, there couldn't be open data, we would never use information from data, we couldn't do prediction, all of these things. We have shown everyone wrong. And we've shown that you can do this in an innovative way. We can do this using people from the community, using people who work for the city, that we have the brains to innovate. And the bones of that have been built. So what I would ask you is, you know, I am stepping back, and of course it's hard to step back, but there is an awesome team. And, you know, I've spent the past couple of years putting really, really great people there. And coming to tonight's meetup and remembering sort of the first time I went to an OpenGov meetup, which was in a tiny room with very few people, shows that we have all sort of come down this way together. And it's been amazing. I know the mayor's proud. I know we constantly get calls from other cities saying, how have you done this? What is the Chicago story? And I say it's been everyone working together. It's been, and that is a lesson. We have all worked together. And I think the last example I'll give you that gets at the spirit of what we've done is Joe Dramoska and I. So when I put out the crime data, right, that was hard and there were bugs, okay? The old days, that would have been gotcha journalism, right? I put out something, there was an error, and then you put Goldstein on the front page of the paper, and then I shut down the program, right? Because that's how it works. But instead, Joe and I just worked together. And we all worked together because we realized we wanted a certain goal. That is different. We have learned to work together. We've learned how to do really smart things, and we've come so far. So thank you. I'm so proud of all this. I appreciate the support, and I hope everyone sort of keeps this up and goes forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Brett. So this is now the roast portion. We've got Dean Martin and Jerry Lip. No, I'm kidding, right?
No roast.
Do we have any questions at this time? Please, yes, sir.
What would you say are the top 3 ways city government functioning has actually improved as a result of all the data convergence?
3. Okay. One, I would
Most
say,
impactful for the average person in the city.
so I would say one is transparent performance metrics. If you go to cityofchicago.org/performance, we are accountable for what we do. And so if we aren't delivering on potholes, it's there. I think for those of you who have worked in sort of performance management systems, doing that sort of accountability helps. 2, we're doing things more efficiently. By bringing the data together, you avoid having departments act in siloed ways. After parades, when there's cleanup, you can now coordinate your garbage trucks with your police vehicles because there's a unification of data. It's doing it smarter. The third piece is, and I like to talk about an acceptance of risk. Now, if I were a smart person looking to be a commissioner for 20 years, would I ever have gone with open source? Would I ever have used MongoDB? No, I would have called the big boys, and I would have spent a lot of money. What the mayor has enabled us to do is hire sort of more crazy people like me who are saying, if I come into government, I'm going to take risks, and I'm going to do more with less, but you want to know what? It's going to be better. And I would argue that some of the things we've built at a remarkably low cost have been better than anything that could be commercially implemented. There's three.
Yep.
Hi. Okay, so the average person doesn't know what an API is, and they don't know how to set one up. So they go to the portal, they have all these data sets, and they, let's say someone in NBC watches the NBC News at 10 o'clock and they hear about this great data portal. So my question is, how do we, over time, to keep this tradition going, if you will, merge this amazing technology you built, the team's going to keep building, to excite the average Chicagoan to either look stuff up or to get information and understand how their city functions, to make them, whether it's their ward or their neighborhood or to that whole rat problem with the garbage cans, how do we get those people more excited? Is it, the press doing some type of weekly did you know, or how to make high-level tech approachable to the average person or mom or dad that really doesn't know what an open data set means?
Yeah, so, all right, so I'll stay with my sort of three answer piece. One, the data portal needs to have a better UI, okay? It's not friendly. It needs to speak better to the lay user. One of the things Tom is doing is, I think it was yesterday or the day before, we are the flagship client here, and we're for Secreta, and we're working with them to get it more friendly. Two is really, look at how things have changed. We have, for example, Elliot right here. His job is to tell the story of data. We need to encourage that, and it's just a couple of years ago. When the crime data was released, we had a reporter reach out to us and say, "We don't want to look through data. Can you just tell us the story?" Okay. Now we have WBZ here listening to me babble on about data. But third is also outreach. Like, I'll go back to my team. Like, if you look, you have Tom, Wade, Sean, Ryan, all sort of here. Part of their job is to be out there and working with people. And I think if you have those three pieces, they're a start, but then you start to have things like Smart Chicago. Like Dan and I have set up a meeting. Every 2 weeks we get together and say, how can we better collaborate? How can you be an execution arm? Or, Whitaker, besides streaming, he's constantly involved. Like, again, I don't think there's a magic bullet, but when did you ever see, like, people from government sort of at a hackathon? So I think it's a start.
So you've talked very elegantly about kind of the value of doing it yourself, doing it in-house, not having to go out to big vendors and so on. But to kind of reach the very ambitious vision you laid out, you got to hire people, right? You got to hire people. You start hiring people, and then maybe there's things that need to be bought as well. But procurement is very difficult to deal with, and so you get really expensive things that aren't very good. So what are ways of dealing with those or other structural problems that are going to be important in the long term? Assuming you agree with kind of my diagnosis.
Yeah. So I'm going to be kind of dodgy on the procurement thing because I don't think I know the answer to that. Procurement is hard because I believe in strong competitive procurement processes, but I also know that, it's like we've had the discussion before. It's common out there. How do you make procurement easier? But I am going to talk about hiring. So when I came in as CIO, people said, hiring is impossible and no one's going to want to work for you. Well, okay, maybe I shouldn't use that last phrase. No one's going to want to work for the city. I'm a real pleasure to work for, no comment. So it's just one of the things I think we've done poorly in government has been how we talk about working for the city. When I go out and I say, hey Steve, I want you to come work for me, after 20 years I'm going to give you a pension. And I get that sort of long commit. Is that the right play? The way that I hired a lot of my team, and some of them are here tonight, is saying, hey, I chose to step away from my sort of West Coast startup life, and I wanted to do a tour in public service. I wanted to give back to my community. So when I hire people, I say, don't think of it as a 20-year engagement. Give me a couple of years. Come in. I know the salary is less than what you could make, but what more pride can you take from a job than when you improve people's lives? Because the things we do make people's lives better, one way or another. And I've been really, like your life?
No, that's not what
Not
really. No.
Okay.
It's been okay.
There's a way to yank him. So beyond message. So it's, but like when people look at the team I've put in place over the past year, it went against what everyone said. I have a rock star team I'm leaving in place, and they could be off making a ton of money somewhere else, but they care about their community. They have great challenges, and I'm really proud of them. So you can do so much, and we have great people in government.
The appeal to public service is very powerful, but is it enough? Is it enough to really hire the number of people you would need to really make this every state department data driven, which seems to be the vision that you outlined?
So as I've been exiting over the past week, the consistent thing that I have been told is people didn't think I could get it done, but they're in disbelief of how much we've gotten done in the past year and in the past 2 years, more holistically. And that's the proof, because I didn't do it on my own. Like, I have 3 little kids at home. I have to change diapers. It's the team. And you don't need a massive horde of, we know this, you don't need a massive horde of people to make change. You need some people who know what they're doing, who are committed and motivated. And that's how are you going to radically change every little thing overnight? No. But as you change trajectories, as you iterate through improvement, then it's something to be proud of. So Ryan's going to say.
And speaking to that, if you go to cityofchicago.org/careers, there's a job opening for a principal programmer analyst that'll work with me in web development and carry on the stuff that Brett's talking about. Wink.
There you go.
I'm just curious, how did you find it working with the departments and the commissioners and trying to get their cooperation? How did that go for you?
So it was a really good experience for me. I know part of it is I spent a year in the mayor's office, and then
on the 5th floor.
Yes, and then I was sent over to be the CIO. But with that being said, like I come with sort of substantial background in the space, so I was able to sort of speak with some experience. But with that being said, people in government know that I'm exceptionally honest. I call it like it is. Like, I don't play politics. I'm unusually blunt, and people ended up really respecting that. But it also meant that when I said we'd do something, we did it. So I've had great relationships with their commissioners. There's some, like, when people think of government, there are so many nights that it would be, I'd be in my office, it's dark outside. I have a great view from my office, I'm really going to miss it, but anyhow, not relevant. And I'd be on the phone with the head of budget, with the commissioner of streets and sand. It's late at night, and you have this group of people who just care so much about the city. And it's a great group. And if you sit down and you go to one of the mayor's cabinet meetings and you look around the table, he has put together this just great team. So it's been great to work with them. It's been great, obviously, having a strong executive sponsor. That always helps. But it's been really effective.
This is sort of a higher level question, but the UK open data scene has been a couple of years ahead, and they've taken certain decisions in Europe about taking do you need service level agreements for data, open data, or how does the government really become a real platform provider? So I guess my question is, do you see the US following the same path, or Chicago a different path, or what's your, are we going to be more like the UK?
Yeah, I don't know. I was in Canada last week, and I was talking to them about some of their challenges. And they have different rules, they have different regulations, and each of these countries seems to have a different set of worries. Honestly, I don't know that we're at that point yet where we are. What worries me more now is we're still at the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to get out, but I worry about things like the data dictionary. I worry about things like semantics, where I use the example of in New York, if Ryan and I were in New York and he beat me up, that's an assault. Here it's a battery. How do we conquer those problems? Now, what you say is legitimate. I don't know. I'm gonna have to sort of leave that to Tom, and then he'll let me know what he decides. But that's been my focus. I'm much more interested right now with dealing with definitions because I'm interested in federation problems.
That would probably be the best fitting for the evening if Tom decided if Ryan should commit assault or battery against you. What do you do?
That would be an awkward end.
Yep.
I guess I deal with this a lot. Have you encountered anything either from commissioners or the public affairs officers of commissioners in how the data portal may or may not have made their life a living hell, given that they were sort of the gateway for a lot of information, and now they can no longer sort of rose up some numbers if they were so inclined?
It just hasn't, like, I've had cases where people have been worried pre-release, and I always sort of try and find some wood to knock on. It's been okay. Like, the benefits have outweighed the worry. Like, going back to FOIA, like, you know, it's just, like, we are responding, we have less of the FOIA requests because information's out there. It actually helps business. People can look up their business license. People can look up all of these things. But I don't think I've ever gotten a PIO call like that.
I just have two more.
Two more, so you're like, your friends are going to get angry at you and I said something nice.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, it's, the second is sort of like, and I probably see this in a lot of people that look into data as much as you have, like, there are some problems that are just seemingly intractable because when you layer and layer and layer more data sets on top of more data sets, you're like, there's no economic development here, there's poor infrastructure here, and then there's like, and I speak particularly to the south and west sides of Chicago, higher rates of crime, higher rates of drug use, not that much economic development, both private, public, and then you just sort of see these things layered on top of each other, and you see how there might be some correlation between others, some not much, and you're like, how can this be fixed? Like, is it possible to use data to fix some of this stuff when the data suggests it's so glaringly, like, there's a huge gap? And, I mean, and then I'll let you finish that, and then the last one is who's going to replace you, which I don't know if you're going to answer that, but leave it to you.
Wow, you are playing reporter tonight. So, so question number 2, that's why I talk about programs, public policy, and computer science, because we need to bring, like, we're talking about what the data shows. Now, I can have some expertise in what data shows. I might be able, through an algorithm, induce what I think might be an interesting treatment. But when we bring together sort of the public policy, the social science, things like that, that's what I'm arguing for. How do we bring these things that are being shown in the data and make them part of that discourse? So I don't have the broad answer for, you know, how you take these things, you know, whether it's a hotspot, a correlation, something like that. I want to make it easier so that that data informs on the decision-making process. So on question number 3, so you want me to break some news now? Yeah, we're going to hold off on that.
Is there a candidate lined up already?
So I'll defer to the mayor because I was checking the executive order and I think it's his announcement to make.
Gotcha.
Okay. Did Dan abandon me?
No, I have a question from Rachel on the internet. Question more about OpenData. I organized a free event to celebrate OpenData Day in February. I tried to get permission from the city to screen a short PR video that the city made about its OpenData initiative. How can we get the city to make its materials, videos, and otherwise explicitly open for public use?
Why didn't you call me?
Did you call Brett?
Did you call me? So here's one of the things that I've said, and I expect you'll see as people, you know, as I'm replaced and things change. What I've tried to do for the past 2 years is say, when there's something that doesn't make sense, or there are roadblocks, call me. Call me, tweet me, email me. I think the people who know me in this room know I'm pretty accessible. It's just I've never wanted to be a commissioner or appointee who had that wall in between. And I expect that will continue. And there's a reason, like you're seeing my staff here, you're going to see a lot more of them. But that's the type of administration that we've tried to have. So I'm sorry, Rachel, on the internet. But these are, like, we need to continue to work through these hiccups because our job is to help.
Specifically with regard to, like, copyright of government items.
So it's one of the things that we do is one of our closest partners is the law department. I don't think a day goes by where I don't talk to the Department of Law about how do we make something work. Like the CLA that we announced today. You know, this is one of the things. Reached out to the attorney, and I'm like, I want this to be done before I go. And those are the types of things we do. It's a close partner, and it's a partner who we all work for the mayor, and it's under the mayor's vision of transparency and openness.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, so you said that there are trying to put the data open and trying to make sure a lot of organizations come close and share the data. But I'm going to be that guy in the room who's going to ask you, do you see any privacy concerns in that? Do you see it's easier, how hard or easy for you to put the data open through everyone's access, and how would that change the core privacy issue with this thing?
Yeah, so I worry about that all the time. I worry about algorithms that will bring together data and identify people. And that's, you know, some of the more intense things we've had to do have been with releasing public health data. How do we make sure we abide by HIPAA? So one of the challenges that Tom has going forward is as more and more gets out the door, how do we ensure that privacy is maintained? And how do we make sure we don't have that sort of unknown gotcha? Because as far as we've come, every day I fear the mistake that we make, which will set us back. So it's absolutely a worry. It's something that can really hurt this effort. And you know, Tom has to carry the torch on that.
Lola?
Do you look at the rat data? By
Like the actual
spot?
rats?
You know the
Like
blocks?
I've looked at it. Like,
You know some of the addresses of the blocks?
they're going to be published on the screen in about 30
Yeah.
seconds.
Our block, the rat people have been there every week for 9 months and 4 months twice a week. So I'm pretty sure that's why they were there, for your data.
Well, I'd like to say that, but I think we're still early on this one. Like, I'm excited. If you want, I'll take credit, but I don't know if I can yet. But I hope you don't have any more rats. Is a rat free?
Bloomberg has experiment with their trains, in their trains.
Cool.
I have a question about the way that Windy Grid works compared to how New York City developed, you know, their platform, but they keep it in-house, the Data Bridge platform, and they've got their own team of data scientists. Do you kind of rely on your academic partners to identify and solve city challenges with the platform that you guys have built, or how does your ecosystem work compared to the way that New York City and Mike Flowers and those guys have built theirs?
So Mike's a buddy of mine. So we got to know each other when I was still in the mayor's office, and they've done some really smart things, and his approach has been, you know, I think they talked about this in the New York Times article. It's Mike, and he has he calls it his bunch of kids.
Yeah.
And they're using SAS and OBIE and sort of platforms like that, and they're working on real specific sort of cases, and they've done really, really smart work on the illegal conversions. That's great. Our approach has been different, where we're looking on building a broad platform where you're able to solve problems in a more extensible way. What I cared about initially was less let's think about the illegal conversion, but how do you have a technique that can be ported over? So if you have a series of points in time and space, how do they relate? Because think of all the cases that applies to. So Chicago's approach has been an extensible platform which is portable and allows you to apply it to both inductive and deductive cases, where and also based on open source platform. Well, Mike's has been more focused on a more commercial piece. He's been really successful. We have different approaches, and we get along and sort of share results. And this is more in the spirit of historically cities wouldn't work together. Like before this administration, you wouldn't have Brett and Mike just getting on the phone, shooting the stuff, and sending over code and doing that. Now we compare. Like we just they come to Chicago, we go to New York and work together, but different approaches.
Yeah.
I'm more to the open source platforms.
And he kind of keeps his team internally and doesn't let the public take a look at his form really.
Well, I guess I could tell you secret number 4. My team's a little more fun.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Did we exhaust everyone?
Are you gonna change your Twitter handle?
So yeah, so I've moved over. So I gave up Chicago CDO. It's now BJGOL, my old college handle. So I turned over the keys. I don't. So the Chicago CDO will remain with the city.
BJGEO?
BJGOL.
Oh, GOL.
Yeah, I will be much quieter, and I don't know if I'll have anything interesting to say. So we'll see.
Catherine, our emissary from Los Angeles.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm here visiting from Los Angeles, and we just elected a new mayor, who I work with really closely. And I have to say we look to Chicago as a real inspiration for what can happen really quickly, starting with a system that's really dysfunctional, which is what we have. So it's been, I really appreciate that, and this talk is really super helpful. And thank you to everybody in this community, because I know that our community lives here and gets inspired.
Anybody else? I'm not going to stop until, yeah.
People.
Can we get you off message? It's now 8:04. Can we get you off message at all?
So in 20 hours, I will then be providing. I'll call Elliot and I'll give everything up.
Well, thank you to Brett, and thank you to all of the city employees who are here and continuing the work, and thank you all for coming.